Good morning, everybody. Today I will be talking about data-driven decision making. This is a process very similar to the assessment and planning cycle that all teachers use. Only this time we are focusing on the data. The process starts by designing a plan to be actioned, informed by the data we've collected. As the assessment process, we need to assess if what we implemented or planned is actually working. The next phase is what I call a two-in-one process. We need to analyze the data that is collected after the plan is implemented and reflect on the outcome. This is an evolving process. The reflection will lead us to a new planning phase. In short, the DDDM is a process for educators to action from the data they collected and assessed. To demonstrate how to implement a DDDM, I have organized a strategic plan focusing on tackling low attendance rate of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students in the rural and remote areas. I have interpreted the current data on hand and devised a plan to gather more data to make an informative decision about how to increase the attendance rate. The plan suggests where and how to collect the data we need and point out the implications from this data. Most importantly, what will the data tell us about the learning of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students in the rural and remote area? To finish it off, always reflect on what I've learned from this process, what can be improved, and where to next. So first thing first, what do the existing data tell us? Remember, the evidence should never come from a single source. We need to be well informed from the very beginning. So a set of data is what we need to collect. The current data told me that although 83.9% of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students are enrolled in government schools, their attendance rate has been persistently lower than the non-Indigenous students. The gap gets bigger as these students progress to the secondary schools. The pattern becomes more prominent in rural and remote areas compared to the metropolitan areas. The Department of Education, Training and Employment in Queensland informed that this pattern has not much to do with their socio-economic status. In summary, closing the gap is yet to be achieved. Before I explain about what data I think we need, I must tell you why. A data-driven decision-making is not about the numbers on the data. It is about transforming these numbers into actionable knowledge. I came across this book called Putting Faces on the Data by Lynn Sharrett and Michael Fullan. They suggested that teachers should develop a more personal approach to tackle issues they experience. I'm not going to go into details about their research, but I will share with you that from the 1,102 responses they received, the top 3 reasons why teachers agree to put faces on the data are: number 1, it adds a personal, human, and emotional element to the data. Number 2, it helps them align their teaching strategies. And number 3, it encourages all systems and members to make their work motivating and meaningful. The data I think we need to gather is for two reasons. Number one, to inform us about what impacts have attendance rate on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. And number two, what can we do about it? So the types of data I'm looking for will identify the effects of learning and reporting of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. Identify what these students have in common, their family composition, parents' education level, and drug and alcohol abuse, etc. Also informative data about what strategies, programs, or tools have been proven to successfully re-engage these families. This new data set is going to be both qualitative and quantitative. Where and how can we collect more data? We can gather qualitative data from records such as teachers' diaries, communication records such as emails and phone conversations, or notes from parent-teacher interviews. Qualitative data are sourced from formative assessments, the assessment for learning, which does not pose any time strain or exam condition for the class. On the other hand, quantitative data is something that can be measured, which are often derived from summative assessments. In this case, I will be looking into statistics such as attendance rate from every school that is in rural and remote areas to identify what these students have in common. I will also need their school academic records before tapping into the data which tells me how the human resources side of things are going. So I want to know the ratio of teaching and supporting staff with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds to the non-Indigenous staff. By this stage of the DDDM process, educators would learn why and what their practices have worked and vice versa. They would be able to redirect or allocate resources according to the evidence from the data. They will also be able to address the social issues and learning needs from a more personalized approach. For example, get these students tested for their reading levels and develop individual curriculum plans which will help them overcome the setbacks. Educators would not only be able to make a DDDM without working collaboratively with parents, carers, the school administration, and medical and health professionals. Finally, educators and all staff in schools should follow the principal's lead to reflect on the process of how these data sets have been collected, assessed, and analyzed, as these implications and outcomes from this action plan is going to direct them to their next plan.